Today I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution. The indictment alleges that between at least 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. As alleged in the indictment, to carry out this conduct, Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering conspiracy that used the business empire he controlled to carry out criminal activity, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice. Let me say a little bit more about the charges. The indictment alleges that Combs abused and exploited women and other people for years, and in a variety of ways. As alleged, Combs used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sexual performances with male commercial sex workers, some of whom he transported or caused to be transported over state lines. Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant. As alleged, when Combs didn't get his way, he was violent, and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse so that they would participate in the freak-offs, and that Combs hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims, at times by their hair. On one occasion in March of 2016, that conduct was captured on video and later reported in the media. Specifically, Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a victim in a Los Angeles hotel when the victim was attempting to flee. As alleged, these assaults often resulted in injuries to the victims, which took days or weeks to heal. In addition to the violence, the indictment alleges that Combs threatened and coerced victims to get them to participate in the freak-offs. He used the embarrassing and sensitive recordings he made of the freak-offs as collateral against the victims. And the indictment alleges that he maintained control over the victims in several ways, including by giving them drugs, by giving and threatening to take away financial support or housing, by promising them career opportunities, by monitoring their whereabouts, and even by dictating their physical appearance. Because of all of this, the indictment alleges that the victims did not believe they could refuse Combs without risking their security or facing more abuse. The indictment also alleges other acts of violence undertaken by Combs and others, including violence against witnesses to his abuse, kidnapping, and arson. The indictment alleges that on more than one occasion, Combs carried or brandished fire.
Hard to imagine a bigger storm in the world of entertainment right now than the one surrounding Diddy Combs. This isn't just another celebrity controversy. It's a full-blown scandal with lawsuits piling up and shocking names being linked to the unfolding drama. Let's dive into the details and try to make sense of how this saga has managed to entangle not just Diddy, but a surprising list of A-list celebrities.
Next tonight here, new and disturbing accusations against Sean Diddy Combs. A Texas attorney tonight says he now represents 120 alleged victims, men and women, whose allegations span more than 30 years. The accounts of the alleged victims have not been fully vetted, but their accusations involve the kind of drug-fueled, alleged sexual assaults described in a dozen civil lawsuits and the criminal case against Combs. Combs has pleaded not guilty to federal charges. His attorney tonight saying Combs emphatically denies any claim that he sexually abused.
First, let's address the allegations against Diddy himself. The lawsuits are nothing short of horrifying. They include accusations of, with one particularly alarming claim involving a 16-year-old girl at one of Diddy's infamous white parties. These parties, known for their exclusivity and extravagance, have been a staple of Diddy's brand for years, but now they're at the center of a scandal that threatens to dismantle his legacy.
Breaking news, the Department of Homeland Security has just confirmed to CNN that federal law enforcement agents have raided properties owned by musician and producer Sean Diddy Combs. Let's bring in CNN security correspondent Josh Campbell and CNN legal analyst Joey Jackson. Josh, let me start with you. What do these raids by federal agents in multiple locations tell you about the seriousness of this investigation?
Yeah, Wolf, a very significant development here, seeing this law enforcement action taking place. I'll point out, just to be clear at the outset, we don't know that Sean Diddy Combs himself is the subject or target of a federal investigation. So it's just worth pointing that out at this hour. But what we do know is that two properties associated with him, we saw the feds descend on those properties. We saw on aerial footage, federal agents both here in the Los Angeles area as well as in Miami at those residences. Now, the Department of Homeland Security, their what's called HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, gave CNN a statement. I'll read you part of that when asked about what this activity is. They say that earlier today, HSI New York executed law enforcement actions as part of an ongoing investigation with assistance from HSI Los Angeles, HSI Miami, and our local law enforcement partners. That is it, confirming that they are conducting what they're deeming law enforcement action, which could indicate search warrants being conducted there, could indicate arrests being conducted. We just don't know at this hour specifically what that law enforcement action is. It is worth pointing out, though, that Combs himself obviously has faced significant legal woes in recent months. I'll give you just a kind of the highlights of what actually occurred. In November, he was sued for rape and abuse by a former partner. That lawsuit was then settled very quickly. But in December, he faced sexual assault allegations in a complaint filed in the Southern District of New York. The suit was brought by a woman referred to as Jane Doe, who said that she was 17 at the time when these allegations took place back in 2003. He was accused of sex trafficking and gang rape, among other allegations, also in that suit naming two of his associates. Of course, Combs denied any wrongdoing there. And then just last month, a former employee of Combs filed a suit also in the state of New York, accusing him of sexual assault, of sexual harassment, and, quote, grooming. That former employee stated that he had worked for Combs between 2022 and 2023. Among those allegations, this former employee, a male employee, said that Combs did not compensate him for his music production work and forced him to procure and interact with sex workers, threatened him with serving alcoholic beverages laced with drugs to guests at parties at Combs' home. And then Combs' son, Justin Combs, was also accused of soliciting prostitutes and underage girls at his father's homes. Again, the Combs have denied any wrongdoing, but just a series of allegations that we've seen taking place. Final point, Wolf, I'll note is that while we don't know the specific allegations or why the feds are at these residences, it is worth pointing out the agency that is conducting this law enforcement activity. It's not the FBI, it's not the DEA or the ATF. This is HSI, Homeland Security Investigations. For those unfamiliar, this is an agency that has long been the forefront specifically at human trafficking investigations. So although we don't have the specifics yet, we're starting we can glean just based on which agency has the lead, the direction this might go. But again, we don't yet know that Combs himself was the target of the investigation, Wolf. We do know at this hour that federal agents were at two of his homes, both here in Los Angeles and in Florida, Wolf.
Yeah, important points. Joey Jackson, now let me repeat, we don't know if Sean Diddy Combs himself.
Diddy's legal team has fiercely denied the allegations, describing them as attempts to gain publicity. His attorneys argue that the truth will prevail in court, insisting he has never seen he assaulted anyone. Yet the weight of these allegations and the sheer number of lawsuits makes it difficult to dismiss them outright. We're not just talking about one or two cases. Reports suggest that up to 120 civil lawsuits could soon be filed against him. That's a number so staggering it feels more like a conspiracy thriller than reality.
It's not good if your homes are actually being raided.
No, it's not, Wolf. And I think, whatever conclusions can be drawn remain to be seen, right? There's not an indictment that we're talking about. That means that we're not speaking of a grand jury having rendered a conclusion, not as to guilt. That's not what grand jurors do, but as to reason to believe that a crime was committed and he committed them. Having said that, whenever you have a raid and an investigation, these things need to be really predicated upon, right? The precursor for this to happen would be some probable cause. What is that probable cause? We don't know. But let's go back to what Josh Campbell talked about, which are those various lawsuits. Now, lawsuits are civil actions in nature. They're not criminal at all. But what they do is they give authorities some guidelines and guideposts with respect to alleged conduct that was engaged in, with regard to who it was engaged in, what activities there were, what it involved. And so that, if there's an investigation, could serve as a source of plentiful information. That information could be further investigated, right, by certainly this Homeland Security agency. And as a result of that, they can work with their local law enforcement partners. What does that mean? It means that they, collectively, law enforcement, try to determine whether there's reason to believe that crimes were committed and, were those crimes carried out and associated in any way we don't know, with Sean Combs. And so that remains to be seen. But before authorities, Wolf, can get into the home or property of anyone, you have to establish some firm basis to do that. And that is what at least we can conclude, that they had reason to believe that there were crimes involving sex trafficking, apparently, and that these areas potentially can give more information with respect to the specifics. And I think they would be looking for computer devices and other devices which would seem to indicate or give information as to whether there was any criminality very early in the process. But certainly we know that these have been carried out, and we'll see what, if any, information is gleaned to be suggestive of any criminality.
Very interesting. Josh, let me get back to you. You know the FBI very well. Under what circumstances would raids like these be conducted?
Well, this would require, if it is indeed a search that's being conducted, it would require federal officers, in this case with Homeland Security investigations, going to a judge and seeking a warrant, indicating that we believe that evidence of a crime could be located in these residences. And then this third party, an independent judge, has to approve that warrant. And then you see take place what's happening now on our screen. I particularly want to focus on, you see that large RV-looking vehicle there. This is the mobile command post that federal agencies will send whenever they're going to be somewhere, likely for a long time. I mean, if you look at these residences, we're talking about very large estates. And so, as Joey was mentioning, something as simple as a thumb drive or anywhere where electronic media could be stored, if it's on that warrant, authorities can search that residence top to bottom, looking for any type of device, any type of...
But here's where things take an even more dramatic turn. The lawsuits don't just target Diddy, they also implicate several high-profile individuals in varying capacities.
Pop mogul Sean Diddy Combs will try for the third time to get bail today while he awaits trial on sex trafficking and racketeering charges. Scripps News national correspondent Alex Miller is live in New York City, where this hearing happened earlier today. Alex, there was already a hearing earlier this week looking at notes taken out of Sean Combs' cell. How could that impact his chances at bail? His team says that raiding his cell, monitoring his calls, is not allowed and not fair to allow him to prep for a trial.
It'll be interesting to see if this ends up happening. We just got out of this hearing, nearly 2 hours long, and they only talked about these notes at the very beginning. They discussed essentially whether or not they said the word legal on them, and there was a bit of a discrepancy from the defense. Essentially, they backtracked on this even just a little bit. Essentially, he has these binders, legal pads that, according to the photographs from the raid on his cell, did not say the word legal. All of a sudden, now they do. And the defense couldn't exactly say when the word legal was written, and that matters because if it said legal on any of these notes, that is part of attorney-client privilege. Those are things that should not have been taken out of his cell. So there is a big question about that. But Nate, the bigger issue here now is he going to get out? As of tonight, he is still going back to his jail cell. But next week, we will know whether or not he is going to be able to get out until his trial. So the big discussion here, according to the government, is can they trust him? He has proposed a whole laundry list of things that he's willing to do if they'll let him out. Things like 24/7 security, things like not speaking to anybody, not having internet access, phone access, unless it's through this 24/7 security company. But the government and pretrial services, who is separate from the prosecution, they're not buying it. They're saying that they cannot trust Sean Combs to not follow the law or to not follow the rules that he has even set out for himself. They say because he's already broken the rules that the department, the Bureau of Prisons, and his own counsel have laid out for him within a jail cell. So they're essentially saying if he can't do it there, how could he do it in the comfort of an apartment? They had tried to get him released to Star Island, his home on Star Island right in Miami, because there's because it's an island and there's a dock there, the judge immediately said absolutely not, because in theory he could, escape that way. They don't necessarily.
Some of these celebrities are accused of complicity, while others are mentioned as part of Diddy's inner circle without direct accusations against them. It's a tangled web, and it's drawing attention to some of the biggest names in music entertainment and even royalty.
So what his defense team has now proposed instead is bringing him to an Upper East Side apartment, a 3-bedroom apartment where they say they would have 2 security guards inside of his apartment at all times, 1 downstairs. Again, the judge has not really said whether or not he is keen on this. He didn't really disclose if he's leaning one way or another, but he did ask a lot of questions about what that would look like. Again, the government not buying it, as well as pretrial services, which is the organization, the department that would have to make sure that everything was on the up and up.
Yeah, Alex, I wonder also, whether there was discussion of that now infamous video back from 2016 of Combs beating his girlfriend at the time, Cassie, the entertainer. Did that get discussed at all in the hearing today?
It did, because the defense is saying that the prosecution basically took the video that CNN originally published and gave it to the judge in that exact form, which is that it was edited down and they say out of order. They say essentially that the video ends with Cassie being dragged back to the room. They say that's not how it happened. They say it's important to know that that is not how it happened. But according to the defense, they say, or according to the government rather, they say it doesn't really matter, because what you can see is what happened there. Her getting beaten up, her getting kicked, all of these violent things in nature. And what I don't think has been reported enough is that the allegation here isn't just that it was a squabble between the two of them, that it was, the defense calls a lover's quarrel, but that inside the hotel room down the hallway, that there was a male sex worker there that was part of these freak-offs. So it's not just about the abuse that happened in the hallway, but the prosecution wants to bring this into evidence because of what was actually happening inside of that hotel room. Now, the defense maintains that that wasn't the case. They maintain that the fight actually happened because he was just trying to get his phone and clothing back. But even still, this video was even used today in the discussion about how violent they believe Sean Combs is and why he cannot be released on bail.
Yeah, Alex, I read about 90% politics all day long, but I mean, this is one of the stories that, breaks through, especially coming from the entertainment industry. Such a big entertainer for such a long time. Safe to say that this story not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yes, you heard that right. Royalty among the names mentioned in connection with this case is none other than Prince Harry. Now, before anyone jumps to conclusions, it's important to clarify that there are no allegations against Harry himself. He's simply noted in the lawsuits, likely because of his past associations with certain events or individuals in Diddy's circle. But his inclusion is enough to raise eyebrows and add an unexpected twist to this already convoluted story. Other names on this list include music industry titans like Nicki Minaj, Usher, and producer Harve Pierre. Again, it's crucial to point out that not all of these individuals are accused of wrongdoing.
Oh, it's gonna get bad, all right. Welcome to Popcorn Planet's Diddygate coverage. I'm Andy Signor, and there's been a lot of talk about this alleged memoir from Kim Porter. Her family is now deeming that it's fake. Diddy's own lawyer saying it's shameless, it's a scam. Amazon has actually pulled it because of Sean Combs' kids saying that it's fake. But now the author has gone and broken his silence and done an interview with The Art of the Dialogue. And it's pretty damning, guys. It's pretty fascinating. Now, look, I'd love to get this guy on the show. We are trying our best. This is the author. His name is Chris Todd, and he's here talking about a lot. We're going to go through some of these clips, and we're going to break this down even further in our live later today. There's also Jaguar White right out there doing a lot of stuff. We got so many updates, guys. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed. Hit that bell for all alerts. Smash that all so you get notified. And when you get notified, hit that like and leave a comment down below. Helps get these videos in the algorithm, and it's important we get this stuff out there. Now, do I believe this guy? I don't know what to believe, but man, Art of the Dialogue, the guy who's interviewing here does not. He gets extremely defensive. It's kind of a hard watch. I'd love to have Chris on, and we're reaching out to him. Chris, come on the show. I want to play some of these clips, though, so you can get a gauge of what you think about this guy and is the author of this book. Does he sound legit? Here's some clips. Here's Will and Jada mentioned.
Can you explain how the alleged memoir portrays the nature of Kim Porter's relationship with Diddy? Was an open relationship mentioned in the book verified by any source close to them?
About their sex life?
An open relationship.
Means a sex life. Yes, we have sources, and multiple sources said they had an open relationship, yes. She says it too, so I'm going by what she's saying. She's saying they do.
And
that they have threesomes with multiple celebrities. They're listed in the book. So yes. Am I going to go to Will Smith and Jada and ask them that? No, I'm not.
Okay.
Okay.
So
am I going to ask Jamie Foxx that?
Could you pull that up for me? I want to show you something.
Sure.
Now, again, you got to remember, this is a book that he got allegedly through a thumb drive, a USB drive stick that has not only Kim Porter's alleged diaries, but tapes and evidence. And he was given this after Kim's passing in a way to sort of get the truth out there by others. That's ultimately what this is about. Now, this guy's written some other books, other crime stories, etc., and that's ultimately, I guess, why he was selected. It's still a little confusing to me, but here's some more. Will Smith coming up again.
These are serious.
For some, their connection to Diddy appears to be purely professional or social, but in a case this explosive, even a casual mention can have serious repercussions after all. Being linked to allegations of this magnitude is damaging enough regardless of actual involvement. City is known for violence, poor conditions, and a string of celebrity detainees and Diddy attorneys. Want him out? NBC News is Yasmin Yusin has more from his $48 million Miami mansion to hell on earth, where chaos reigns. Just some of the words used to describe the Metropolitan Detention Center, where Diddy Combs is now being held without bail after pleading not guilty to sex trafficking and racketeering charges. Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. He is not the first high-profile inmate to pass through these walls. Game Maxwell, R. Kelly, Pharma Bro, Martin Score, and crypto fraudster Sam Bankman freed all as they would for their federal criminal trials called this jail home. But the conditions of the prison are far from homey, notoriously described as, quote, dread. As one judge put it, some of the bench have even moved away from sending nonviolent defendants there. In April, a group of detainees that prosecutors said were MS-13 gang members in court documents stabbed an inmate 44 times in an attack caught on camera. 2 shivs were recovered from the attack. You see them here. The victim survived, and in the last 3 years alone, 4 inmates have died by suicide. And violence is not the only issue. Accusations of medical neglect, staffing shortages, smuggling of drugs, some allegedly facilitated by employees. At least 6 staff members charged with crimes in the last 5 years, according to the AP, some accused of accepting bribes and providing contraband. I've had clients describe NBC as hell as the worst conditions they've been in. Lance Clark is a federal defense attorney who's been there many times now. If the government is going to mandate that they are responds, and for those of us watching from the sidelines, it's a reminder that behind the glamour and glitz of celebrity culture lies a much darker reality. And thanks for watching Celebrity Spill, guys.